Hello,
Hello.
Felipe Engineer Manriquez. I like this, that you say Felipe and then take a pause and put Engineer Manriquez together.
Well, when it's 18 characters long, Dr. M, you have to take a breath.
So it's good evening from Bombay, India, and good morning to you in California.
Thank you. It is a beautiful morning too. And it sounds like you're having a beautiful night. I can't wait until we both start drinking our coffees together on this episode.
Sure. My coffee is on the way, right? So when you start chattering and you can't sip coffee, I'll sip coffee. Okay, done. So welcome to, which show are we doing?
We're doing the Dr. M Show, Season 1, Episode 12, The Scrum Show.
Correct. The SCRUM Story, right? Okay.
Right.
As well, you don't require introduction, but then the guests.
It's more fun to have you do the introduction. So I say, take it away, Dr. M.
I've taken it away, Felipe Engineer Mascarenas. So great to have you as a guest speaker. And this is the 12th episode, my series, which is supporting and sustaining continuous improvement processes. One thing that you should notice that I'm not bothered about the implementation part of it. I have not said about implementation. My concern has been of supporting and sustaining the continuous improvement processes, irrespective of which route you take, the TOC route, the TPS route, the Lean route, the TPM route, the Lean Six Sigma route, the Agile route, the Scrum route. And I don't know much about it. And the only time that I realized it has got something to do with rugby is when I attended one of your shows. And then you told me that Scrum is to do with certain formation in rugby. I'm sure we'll talk about it, right?
Yes,
you look very handsome with your beard around, and I envy your coat. I was thinking of wearing a blazer and putting a tie around, but then I said, let me be a checkered guy, right?
You thought better of it, and I appreciate that. This is a casual conversation.
So why don't you have some music then?
Yeah, because
let's play any. Come on.
Any music. Okay, I'll just get some marching music.
Sure.
There you go. Go ahead, Dr. M.
I'm going to march to the next slide. And here we go. The one and only Felipe Engineer Mascarenas.
Manriquez.
Manriquez.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. You're running your graduation in electrical engineering. I have not put it there, but then I know that you're an electrical engineer.
That is correct.
And then you got you're a registered Scrum trainer, and you're known effort, easier, better, faster. This is extremely good, and that's what precisely that we require at this point of time, with technology taking leaps and bounds, and the time that you require these days for delivery, cost cutting, quality, what have you, has shrunk so much that we need certain things that are faster. Principles remaining the same. How do we move faster is what I'm looking for, and then how do we sustain it? Congratulations on that you're the Chairman's Award recipient for Lean Construction from the Lean Construction Institute. This is bricks and cements construction.
That is correct.
Building constructions, right?
All commercial construction, everything except residential is included in that. So pharmaceutical, manufacturing, everything except residential construction, as far as I know, best of my knowledge. Now, I think, I take that back, Dr. M. There are member companies inside of LCI, Lean Construction Institute, that actually do residential construction at scale. So, no, it's all construction.
Correct. So
there's our first improvement for the show right there. We just PDCA'd. So we should get points for that, Dr. M.
Is PDSA, Point, Do, Study, and Act. Right.
Yes.
Now you got to give me a bugle for that. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
There you are. The author, the best-selling author, international keynote speaker. And there you go. There you go. And Paris is waiting for you.
I can't wait to go.
When are you going there?
What on me? We're waiting for the pandemic to settle down so we can schedule the trip. I'll be in Paris, France, teaching construction professionals how to use Scrum in design and construction in Paris. Mon ami, you will join me. I will make sure to let you know when I'm going there and see if I can't lure you out of India and join me in Paris. We'll have a baguette, a bagel, and a good French press coffee under the Eiffel Tower.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. Just send me this ticket. Felipe. I'll be there with you. Right. And there you go with EBFC show. Come on, say that in your voice, the typical voice of yours.
Better for construction podcast.
Exactly. And so good. How long have you been doing this?
I'm in season 3. We're approaching, I think we just crossed 50 episodes now, and we're headed into infinity. I'll be doing the show so long as this microphone allows me the beautiful pleasure and distinction of bringing and broadcasting my voice across the airwaves, on the internet, and even on people's devices. You can save my shows and download them and take them with you even into areas where the internet doesn't go. So, ladies and gentlemen, just remember, easier, better, faster, cheaper, the way to start and sustain lean continuous improvement. That's how you start it, Dr. M. You got to make it easier first, then better. And once it's better, it becomes naturally faster. And when it's faster, Dr. M, with less effort, costs go down. It becomes cheaper, although the quality goes up, baby. So don't worry not about that.
Okay, let me do it. Easier, better, faster. What does C stands for?
Cheaper.
Cheaper. Okay. Okay.
Less expensive.
Easier, better, faster, cheaper. So let me pronounce your name that way. Easier, Felipe, faster, engineer.
Yes.
Manriquez.
Hey, you got it. That's it. Beautiful.
Easier, better, faster, cheaper. Here we go. And that's the Scrum story that we are getting into. And you're the person who the first time that when I heard you on one of the episodes that I attended most of your episodes. I was fascinated by that. And you told me about the Scrum is the position that is taken in rugby. So you talked to me about what is Scrum, and talked to me about the Scrum movement. And I hand it over to you. And this is, now you got to say this properly, right? Here you go.
Continuous improvement. Implement. Support. That's my turn. All right, here we go. Continuous improvement. Implement. Support. Let's try it. All right. Here we go. Implement, support. I don't know what happens after that T. Let me try this. Continuous improvement. Implement, support, sustain. Dr. M.
Vodcast.
Vodcast.
I love you for that.
With like
I stop sharing and you take over. Felipe. Here we go.
I'm taking it over. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. That was just incredible. The audience is just going wild. So, as Dr. M said, if you want to get in touch with me and we'll learn more about what I'm doing, the best place to get a hold of me is to use your phone. If you're watching this on a computer, you can actually use your phone. Your camera feature, most of you have the ability to snap that QR code, but if you don't, just go to thefelipe.bio.link, THEFELIPE, period, BIO, period, LINK. And there you will find all of these different things like the EBFC Show podcast, all of my social media, so you can get connected with me just like Dr. M did. And if you click on this envelope, you can even send me an email that I will respond to. I've also got links to my book and free training on Scrum, Dr. M, right here. This construction Scrum
I am
training.
registering for that right straight away.
Yes. So,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, take advantage of the free trainings that are out there. I want you to be able to see how you can use what I'm going to show you today in your work whenever you want. And we're going to live go through the goals. I told Dr. M that we have the ability to change this. We're going to use Scrum to teach Scrum and bring it to life. So just a little backstory, as Dr. M mentioned, Scrum gets its name from a paper published in the Harvard Business Review in the 1990s. It was called The New Product Development Game, written by professors Nanaka and Takeuchi, who were studying companies in Japan. And what they found is that some organizations that were doing phenomenally well by all measures, Dr. M, by all measures, not just financial measures, not just money, but also by employee satisfaction, their ability to deliver value to their customers and benefit society. These super organizations, some household names in Japan that, and even around the world, we might recognize, such as Toyota and others, but I'm going to just give a little Toyota love today. They said that in these organizations, Dr. M, everybody was working in a singular direction. And so they said the only place they've ever seen this in the real world was in the game of rugby. When they put the ball back in play, when the plays are stopped and they're restarted, it's called a scrum, as you showed in the scrum story at the beginning of your slides. That formation, when the players all lock together and move in one direction, they have a singular goal to move the ball forward. And the entire team locks arms and connects to move forward. And that is what the researchers saw in these organizations, from the CEO, the board, all the way down to the people just starting and people even doing housekeeping and cleaning in the offices. Everybody was singularly focused in one direction, hence the name Scrum. That's where Dr. Jeff Sutherland coined the phrase. And I've got a picture of Jeff, I believe, here. Yes, there's Dr. Jeff Sutherland right there. He wrote this book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, that is a deep dive into why Scrum exists, how it came to be. The roots of Scrum go back even before, when Jeff was a cadet at West Point in the United States prior to the Vietnam War. And he's since earned his PhD in, and don't question me on what it is, Dr. M, because here we're sustaining about Scrum. I don't remember what his PhD is in. And then that led, I read this book, which led to me adopting and sustaining Scrum and practicing Lean for over a decade. And then I wrote this book, Construction Scrum, as you noted, because I want to help people deliver projects easier, better, and faster. And Dr. Jeff Sutherland is my mentor and did write the forward to my book. So check that out. Oh, look, Dr. M, looks like you have a question. I've got a question area ready for you. What is your first question?
This is the visual indication that I need to understand something.
Yeah.
Look, I understand that the CEOs, everybody, right from top to bottom, get into a Scrum position, the same direction, etc. Okay. That's a team. That's a game. They have an objective, and they put physical body. This is absolutely a physical contact game that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Right. And you have in the organization, how do we get the top management of the management level, everybody to put their hands together in the Scrum position? That's what I'm interested. How do you get them into that? How do you get the mindset into that? The physical comes out later, but then how do you get them to say, okay, here I am, I'm ready to put arms around each other. All of us know that not direction. Everybody talks about Hushin Connery, blah, 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 the true not, all that. But how do I get that arms together with a goal?
That's right. Let's check our goals first. So we're going to, as I promised you, Dr. M, we're going to use the Scrum framework to get this out. I'm not going to forget what you just asked. I'm not deflecting, as my friends would say. I'm just bringing you back. Sure. We're going to use first, I am trained in Scrum. I've been using it and sustaining it, like I said, with Lean for over 10 years. Let's start with the goal. The goal for us, Dr. M, is going to be a mechanism for us to filter in our system what is in this dialogue and what is out. So I've pre-populated some of these goals. This is where I need to listen to you and not just talk at you, but actually pull in what you want to hear. So are you interested in making work exponentially easier and valuable?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll leave that as part of our goal. Do you care about the differences between Kanban and Scrum?
Yeah, I require a clarification. What is the concept of Kanban as you understand it, so that I have certain concepts of Kanban, and let's see where we
Yeah,
can
you
sync
absolutely
on
do.
that.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, we need to, at some point, Dr. M, you need to be interviewed on the EBFC shows so we can start to unpack all that glorious wisdom and experiences that is in your mind. I want to see if the information comes out unfiltered, just like it's going into your mind unfiltered. And then
I promise you, it is absolutely unfiltered, because there's nothing over here to stop it from going right into my head.
Perfect. And then we want to see one piece flow so we can double our productivity with less effort. That is the promise that adopting the Scrum framework offers you. And then we're going to answer your questions throughout. So do you have any goal changes? I can change this at any time. I can just blow this whole card away and have nothing.
Go ahead with what you have said. And my question is, how do we get people into a Scrum position? All this agenda is agreed to. All these goals I agree to, but how do you get these guys into a Scrum position?
So what we're going to do first, how do we get into a Scrum position? We need somebody who knows that somebody is the team captain, or we call in just textbook Scrum, the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is the person here, like you see my little icon here. They're a captain steering a ship. So they're steering towards the goals, like you said, so rightly so, Dr. M, that it is like a game, and work can be seen as a game. And so the captain has to know what the Scrum framework is. If you're going to get people to play a game, somebody needs to know the rules of the game.
When will the captain feel the need that they should come for Scrum?
Right. That is where I'm going to show you in my backstory. So that's a perfect question. But just two more things on this captain or the Scrum Master. They have to agree. If you're going to be doing Scrum, you have to be serving the team, servant leadership, enabling work to flow, or creating and allowing workflow, better flow, focus on flow, which has been a theme of many of your continuous improvement vodcast episodes. And I just have this little funny rule here. The Scrum Master doesn't have to move sticky notes like you're seeing here. So let's go back to, now that we're aligned, we got to start with the problem. Why did I adopt this framework to begin with? I had this problem, Dr. M, of working too much before I adopted Scrum. So here I've got my problems with a little before and after. And this is the Scrum framework that I promised Dr. M I'm going to talk about. So before we even get to here, got to have a problem first. So let's look at my problem. So my problem, some of our CI people understand a lot of these metrics. I'm going to focus on just the big thing here at the top. I started tracking my personal productivity, my ability to complete work tasks, and I was working at a large general contractor here in the United States. And on average, when people made requests of me, Dr. M, it would take me 24 days and 23 hours, or roughly, if you round up, 25 days to deliver what they needed on average. 25 days. That's almost an entire month. And then you can see it further breaks down. I was using a program called Trello to track my task tracking. And then you can see my reaction time to tasks was about most of the time around less than an hour. And then you can see just there's other ranges where it further breaks it down, but there are also a little more than half as many tasks that would take me more than 8 hours to react to. And then you can see my cycle time, most tasks being taken care of in less than a day, but some percentage of tasks taking more than 7 days, and so on and so on. Just not getting a lot of stuff done. What I did then, Dr. M, is I realized I had a capacity problem. I had low capacity and my throughput was really low. If I'm only delivering value about every 25 days, that's a very low throughput. And in project management on complex construction projects, that's not good enough. I'm not serving my team well enough. So I looked into and further refined my Scrum adoption to solve a capacity problem, because the problem I'm trying to solve, Dr. M, is to be able to deliver value with as little waste as possible, because I cannot make more time. Time is the one resource, Dr. M, as you know, that we can't make more of. So in order to get more time, to do more valuable things, to have more fun at work, to have cooler sound effects like this, I needed to improve how I worked. And so I looked at the Scrum framework, I studied Scrum deeper, and I realized that I was not planning well enough. I was not giving enough time for planning. So remember, 25 days before, and we'll go through this whole framework as we go. We covered our goal already. Most organizations, Dr. M, that fail to sustain continuous improvement lack a business purpose or a people purpose, a sufficient goal, or sufficient motivational why as to they should adopt continuous improvement. Just improving things, even Womack and John Shook will argue against just doing improvements for improvement's sake. They say you've got to have a good purpose, or as Simon Sinek says, a why.
True.
So true. So the goal is critical. So my goal was, I was working too much. So on that 25-day lead time, the hours I was working are not even counted here. This is just time on tasks. My work time is 7 days a week, which is not sustainable as a human being. We can't work 7 days a week for long periods of time. So my goal was to increase my time so I can celebrate time with my family. That gets the confetti. So I worked on sprint planning. I had plenty of backlog. You can see that I had plenty of tasks, plenty of backlog. That wasn't the problem. I needed to do some what we call sprint planning or cycle planning. So cycle planning was weak. So my to-do list was a weakness. I was taking in too much work, not using the goal of the current cycle or phase of construction that we were in as a filtering mechanism. Once I improved that, I literally just took my planning time, Dr. M, from 15 minutes and I extended it to 60 minutes. And then I started seeing crazy results. And then we'll work through the rest of the cycle. But once I increased my planning time, this is the after shot. You can see my lead time reduced to less than 5 days. That's a 5x improvement. Hello. 5x, Dr. M. That's just my one example. So after I realized that how powerful this framework is, even more powerful than I thought, now I have capacity to deliver value for my customers and help other people. Now I really can become a servant leader, and I did. I started mentoring people on my site. I started working on firefighting in the field on an active construction project. There was a traditional hard bid, which is a lowest qualified price winning project in the United States in beautiful California, in the city of Orange, is one of the first places I put this framework into heavy use. And so you can see all my numbers got better. Now my worst case scenario, 43% of my tasks were taking more than 8 hours, which means most of the time I'm completing things in a day. You can see my cycle time went all the way to 83% for a day versus before it was only at 54%. I'm sorry, my cycle time here, 44 tasks at less than a day, 81%. And then here we had 83%, 25 tasks. That's what the little numbers stand for. So just massive improvement, massive improvement. So that's we got to have a good problem to solve. And so you can get a lot of benefit just by increasing your planning so you can sustain. To go back to what you asked, how do we become the Scrum Master here who knows Scrum? Where does that person come in to get this game started?
Yep.
Well, you just need one person, Dr. M. So in this case, it was me. I started first, and then I was able to take this to my team. So on this construction project, we had over 60 different subcontractors, or we call trade partners, that had very specific scopes of work, from concrete, drywall, electrical work, all the things that it takes to build a building, more than 60. I was personally responsible for more than 12. I used the Scrum framework for those 12. And at the time, Dr. M, some people knew what Scrum was and they thought it was a software thing. And some people didn't care. They just needed to do their work. So I brought in things that you and I know and love, like one-piece flow, making work visual or visual management, using things like a Scrum board, which I'll show you a Scrum board in just a second.
Yep.
And even using principles from Kanban, which I'll talk about in a second. And with that, all 12 of the trade companies that I was managing, all 12 exceeded their goals for margin, exceeded their goals for safety. And then overall, the project finished over 1 month ahead of schedule, even with a significant amount of change orders to the project. And so some people knew we were doing Scrum and some people didn't. As a Scrum Master, as you get good at practicing this yourself, Dr. M, you don't even have to tell people they're using Scrum. Like right now, I'm going to just give you a sneak peek, Dr. M.
Sure.
We've been doing Scrum the whole time. So there's the board, and we're doing Scrum the whole time. But you just put that back away, and let's just focus back on the problem, and let's jump into the just simple Kanban. So you can hear you asked that question early on. What do I mean when I say Kanban? So a lot of people, Dr. M, will say that they're doing Scrum or Kanban, or some people will say, that, and you'll see like sticky notes like I'm showing here. Here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 swim lanes. It's just me, myself, Felipe. That's all the me and myself. And then I've got a future on deck thing. And I've just made some cards for purposes of today.
Yep.
And some Kanban, Dr. M, will still have a milestone, a goal, or a target rate. This is even true in manufacturing where Kanban is very popular. And here, this board is designed to allow for 3 tasks per day. So visually, we should see limits. So these lines indicate limits. So if I zoom in on the first me, we have a work in place limit, WIP, which many CI people know what that is. Your Six Sigma people should all know what WIP stands for. It's not WHIP people. It's WIP, work in place, work in progress. So we've set a limit here based on our current system, our current policies and procedures, our current standards. This team of me, myself, and Felipe can only do each of us.
Can I hold you there?
Yeah, you can hold me here.
Okay, when we are practicing, when I'm practicing, you can call it by lean or any other, we term this as standard WIP. That means in no case, and how we define this is in between operation, we call it a standard WIP. That means it cannot exceed that particular quantity or what have you. It is called SWIP, standard WIP, not greater than. So that's the limit that we put as a standard WIP. And I mean, I'm just correlating it to what you're saying, and with my manufacturing experience, I'm trying to correlate. I hope it's okay with you that I flow.
It's absolutely okay. It's not only is it okay, it's encouraged. So at any time you can ask questions and throw in some nuance.
We call it standard WIP in between operations to create the pull. Okay,
that's right.
I understand.
So we're going to create. So that's a perfect segue. So you see this open box. Dr. M just said one of the magic words, which is pool.
Yep.
When you have a Kanban system or a system, we have a visual system here. You see a gap in this to do and doing. So if we had this over, we see there's a natural case that we're going to pull work forward from our prioritized list of tasks. So if I'm working on a construction project and I don't want to adopt Scrum because I don't want to commit to having a Scrum Master or a product owner or development team and following the simple Scrum rules, we might just adopt Kanban. And then you can create swim lanes for your people and do continuous work and deliver. And when we have a gap open, like here we have our to do, doing, and done, the simplest of all Kanban boards indicates work for the future, work today, doing, and then work that is complete or finished is done. We have a gap here. So now because we have a gap, this person, in this case, it's me, Dr. M, it's me. This person now has the ability to pull in work. So we can learn about Scrum now. Well, me has already learned Scrum. Now I can pull in more work. I can pull in sending a control submittal back, and then I can pull this work forward to
Perfect.
get on deck. And at the end, you can see that based on our, what Dr. M rightfully said was standard work in place, this will be the last thing that'll be accomplished based on this flow. And then we look at what's going on with myself, this other person that just coincidentally is myself. You know, that's just a little bit of what do they call that, Doctor? It's a little bit of humor. It's a little bit of humor. There's the rim shot for the humor. So it's just me, myself, and Felipe. So here we've got learning about Scrum. It's happening right now. Until this happens on myself, we can't move it over into done yet. Things only move from left to right to create the pull. We don't like to see things moving to the left. See, it crashes. It doesn't even fit. We got to move one piece flow from left to right. That's the way to go. So what does Kanban mean? Here's our team. Kanban is sometimes translated into English as a visual board or sign. It is a Japanese word. There is some resources online. There's a technology company, a software company called Kanbanize that has Kanban boards, and they have this short little, what is Kanban explained in 10 minutes. But I like their definition here. It's a workflow management method for defining, managing, improving services that deliver knowledge work or actual physical work. And I've seen Kanban systems in assembly lines, in manufacturing facilities, as well as in prefabrication facilities for design and construction, as well as in even architecture companies, architecture firms using simple Kanban systems as well. And this is supposed to be a picture, Dr. M.
Yep.
Gentlemen, with some signs here.
Yeah. Can I come in?
You're already here. Come on in.
Look, when we practice Kanban is just some sort of a indication, some sort of a information that is shared. Okay, and the way we look at it, when you go into the value stream mapping, you've got something called the withdrawal Kanban, you've got a signal Kanban, you've got a production Kanban. However, after that, you've got something called, it's just information as far as we are concerned. We have got a fixed time variable quantity Kanban. What it means is the quantity reduces as variable time where it reduces. The other Kanban that we use is called fixed time variable quantity. That is, at fixed time, you check what is the quantity. So for us, what Kanban means and how we have been taught is just an information. However you want to put the information. I mean, beautifully you have put it as a visual thing. I accept that as an information part of it, which is made visual. And we call it in this terminology a Kanban board. I accept that. Right?
I love it that you accept it, because you didn't have a choice, Dr. M. It was already going to be here. But yeah, no, Dr. M is correct.
This is what you're sharing the information, and you're showing it to them visually. And there's nothing more powerful than a visual sharing like this.
And this one, we said, Dr. M, on this Kanban board example, these paper tasks, these sticky notes are representative of work that's going to be done. And here we've identified in this standard work example, 3 tasks per day for this team based on this skill set. And when you start your Kanban, you might start with 1 task per day, and you visually would show that just by dragging over this line and then making your visual smaller. But I'm going to put that back because we're set up for 3. Now that we're in agreement, and as Dr. M said, there are more flavors of Kanban out there for sure. When would you want to use Kanban versus Scrum? There's this little thing we call the work continuum. You can have simple work, complicated work, or complex work. And these are just English words. I'm not going to define each one of the 3 for you, but I would recommend.
I am absolutely clear in what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
Now, I just want a nuance for the people watching that don't know all these terms. If your work is very predictable and reliable, and you know the processes well, your work I would consider to be more simple, and that's a good candidate for just Kanban. Now, as your work starts to increase in complexity, like if you have lots of variation, and you're starting to move into complicated all the way to complex, that's where Scrum is unbelievably powerful, because it is so adaptive. As you can see, like all these things can be changed, and we'll see the difference between that, where the simple, this is simple, like these things we know. I know that checking emails, making an inspection report, and then answering questions for myself here, this can all be accomplished in a standard 8-hour workday. And so that's why this is very reliable, very predictable. I know my skills, I've been trained. Now, if I have some other type of work, especially knowledge work, design work, where you're trying to create something that's not been done before, there's more variation and variability there. That's a better candidate for the Scrum framework. And let's go right into design now. And so I've got this example. This is a real life.
Just 1 minute, Felipe.
Let
Let me paraphrase what I've heard you saying. That certain predictable tasks which are simple, which has been done before, which are predictable in nature, use the kanban.
Yes.
But then invariably, in any industries, what have you, you have disruptions which are absolutely unpredictable. Okay, there could be, and that gives you a sort of time lag that's puts certain surprises into your total flow, in which you may have backlogs, which are, some of them are within your control, some of them are beyond your control. And the way I heard you saying, especially in certain projects which are new, which are in a project which are never tried before, I appreciate that there are unknown factors and you need to do a mid-course correction as you go along. I mean, you may have taken a direction, but certain disruption comes, certain unknown variables come around, and therefore you need to be very highly active, and your response time has to be quick and your reaction time has to be quick. That's the way I get that. That's what Scrum is going to help us out. Am I right in paraphrasing you, sir?
You're exactly right. So I'm showing the picture of the entire Scrum framework again. If I haven't already said so, this is the entire Scrum framework. So when you have a lot of variation, you still, the reason this team even exists is they're going to try to deliver some increment of value. And that is what should come out at the end of the system. We have this little representation of a little trolley with some product on it. And that could be anything. That can be actual real stuff, or it could be digital assets. It could be products or services. It's an increment of value. And if you're in a very large value stream, as Dr. M noted, that you could be an intermediate step. You could be in a pre-assembly step, in a sub-assembly. You could be in a sub-assembly of a sub-assembly. Wow, it sounds very fractal, Dr. M. If you're in a very large process, but you're still delivering some value, some increment of value. And so for this team to get together, like Dr. M said, you got to still have a purpose of why you're together. That's the goal. So some of you may be doing parts of Scrum without, but I would open your mind and allow yourselves to envision taking in some additional pieces here. You too can use Scrum to deliver value more reliably, despite variation, despite complexity. And so one of the things that people, Dr. M, will race to is to just start doing work that they think should be done. And I would argue that you should take a moment or two, or maybe three, and do a little bit of planning. We first want to make the work visible. The first step is make the work visible.
Yeah,
and we do that by exposing.
I like this. I like this because there's a lot of saying which says that you measure 1,000 times before you cut. I mean, you do a lot of planning before you even start doing things. And the minute you make it visual, everybody comes to know about it. I like what you're saying.
There's power in just taking all the things we're going to do to deliver that increment of value and just decomposing it onto this backlog. And the backlog is literally just the things that we think need to happen so that we can deliver value. We might be wrong, we might be right. And in Scrum, we'll cover in a second what the product owner does to this backlog to make it even better. And in that planning part I talked about.
Yeah. One thought which you can answer me when you come to the product owner is, does backlog would be a dynamic backlog where the prioritization might change from time to time? Am I right? I mean, you will definitely come to that. But
did you hear the sound of that bell? Dr. M, with the sound of that bell, not only are you right, you are correct. You're not left, you're right.
Look, we are used to driving our vehicles on the left side of the road, and you're on the wrong side of the road by riding it on the right side of the road. Now let's get back to the backlogs. And
That's right. In America, we drive on the wrong side of the road from your perspective. In our perspective, it's the right side of the road.
True. Now play some good numbers. Come on, play something so that we know what's the backlog like. So the backlog is dynamic, as I understand
it. The backlog is absolutely dynamic. And let's go back to get a better definition. So here is this design example. This is a visual representation of a lot of things happening. I'm going to come onto the top of this before I go to the product owner. I just want to show you that even in this is from construction, this design team at this stage, at this phase, they want to have a perfectly coordinated floor plan with mechanical and structural elements to minimize healthcare workers' walking distances, because they're going to create some healthcare space to treat people. And they've even named themselves team name Excellence Unlimited. Okay. and so they've created a board, a Scrum board, where they've got they've added in this checking because they want to do some quality checking. They've got some authorities having jurisdiction that have to peer review sometimes, and sometimes it's just the supervisory review before it moves to done. One of the things that they identified was they wanted to only do value-added work. So they did some value stream mapping early on, which I'm not showing here. And they recognized that minimizing non-value-added work is important. And then this particular example, I mentioned the team goal, and this team, let's say that Jeff's on this team since his picture is there. I'm on this team. Dr. M, you're on this team. I've also added some fictional Kiera and Anaya to our team as well. And let's just look at who are the people on this team. So everyone on this team are in the Scrum Guide called developers. The developers have the ability to self-organize, to order, plan, create value, learn, and adapt. And they control, Dr. M, what happens on what we call the sprint backlog, or that once we make that to-do list, which is a subset of the backlog. And for
I love this. You know why? Because I used to use it, a similar concept, which is called self-management, self-managed teams. Okay.
Yeah.
When we establish factory within the factory, each factory is divided, entire system is divided into various factories, and we got what is called the managed teams. The entire responsibility is there. There's no supervision, nothing. They look after it.
That's right. They control themselves. Now they still could have a product line manager could be inside of this mix in this team, a team leader. I mean, they have various different names, but these are the people that actually create the value.
Yeah.
And then we've got, we talked about the team captain already, so nothing's changed there.
Yeah.
Now the product owner, as you asked, the product owner has the keys to that backlog. They are also responsible that the team achieves that goal. They prioritize and curate the backlog items, which Dr. M so correctly said is a dynamic list. It can change at any time, and anyone can add anything to that backlog, Dr. M, executives, people on the team. Now, how does that happen? It happens with the product owner's knowledge and consent, and the product owner prioritizes that list. Go ahead.
Just 1 minute. Let me get the roles right. Let's go on top where you have the first one. You have the Scrum team. The Scrum team is planning, organization, and they create the value, etc. Okay. Then then you have a Scrum Master. To me, I'm just paraphrasing it the way it is getting into my brain. It's like a catalyst who tries to glue it up, who likes to get all of them together. It's more like what do you call a catalyst as such to accelerate. And the product owner is a person who's totally accountable for everything what the developer is doing, and whatever is he gives certain information to your the catalyst, but the entire accountability is that of the product owner. Am I right in what I hear you saying?
That is correct, Dr. M. For Dr. M, this is not a competition, but right now you're at the leaderboard winning all the points in this presentation here. So
I know you're bothered about what you're doing. I didn't even hear your voice. I'm focusing on what you're telling me. I'm learning. I'm a student.
Amazing. It's amazing. So in this example, the product owner, like Dr. M said, is responsible completely for what is going to be understood. And they work together closely with the Scrum Master. Dr. M, here's some history for you. Let's go back in time. Jeff noted in his book, Scrum, the art of doing twice the work in half the time. When he first created Scrum back in the early 1990s, when it first came onto the scene, before he published it, he was testing this like a good scientist. And he found that the best role where he saw this already in some organizations was at Toyota, the chief engineer. The chief engineer, for people that don't know, at Toyota has the responsibility for what a product is without having direct reports. They do it by influence, and they typically are in the industry in coming up through the organization for over 20 years. And so by the time they get to the status of a chief engineer, they are responsible for what teams do, for the priority work done, and they do it with influence, and they serve the team. So Jeff found that in other industries outside of companies that needed to adopt this, that wanted to adopt this, couldn't wait 20 years to develop one person. So he found that splitting the role of the chief engineer into two roles, a captain, a scrum master, and a product owner, made it really valuable. So just a little bit of trivia there. And for people, you can read more about that in this book, Jeff's book, the Red Book. And the Scrum framework is completely free, by the way. You can visit scrumguides.org, or you can listen to it if you're design and construction centric and you want to learn more. You can watch it here. I've created a YouTube video, Dr. M, where I talk through the Scrum Guide, and I give my commentary for design and construction professionals. That's available on YouTube. So check that out, people, in the Learn More section. But now let's go back to the design Scrum. So we've covered the three roles, and here's an actual example. This is a big room, or what they say in Japanese, obeya. This is a big room in a construction project in Arizona. And we've got a presentation. This is the chief, what we would call the product owner of design at the time. This is my friend here, Mr. Mike Williams. And we actually have a live stream where we cover this in way more detail than I'm going to cover it today with you, Dr. M. But you can check this out at the ebfcshow.com, click on live streams, and find Mike's beautiful face. We're using Scrum for the RFI process, where we show how this team in real life used this framework from design all the way through the end of construction. And they've got, they did a presentation on this on the Lean Construction Institute Congress in Phoenix last year. And I've just, this photo, unfortunately, was taken from like 6,000 miles away, but it's a to-do doing review, done, and does it have cost column, cost impact. And then here at the end, the picture cut off, but they also have an architectural supplemental instructions, ASI, so that they're rolling in design changes in a systematic, meticulous way where the client is part of the process the entire time and agrees on the cost impact. And it just made the process so smooth, Dr. M. The client even received multiple millions of dollars in savings. And I would argue that all of that was made possible. A, they used the Scrum framework. And you can, again, if you want more detail about that, check out this live stream. Mike and I talk about it in way more detail. But B, they adopted these values, Dr. M, in Scrum. And I borrowed this from scrum.org, which is Ken Schwaber. Ken Schwaber is the co-creator of Scrum. He partnered with Jeff Sutherland in the early days of Scrum. He was a project management professional that did some consulting as well. But he said that to have a high-performing team, we've got to have 5 values. And these have since been adopted as the Scrum values. And you'll see respect for people right here, where Scrum team members respect or value each other as capable, independent people, right? Respect for people. There's been some dialogue and debate on this on LinkedIn in the past few weeks recently. But you've got that value plus commitment, plus focus, plus courage, plus openness. I asked, Jeff Sutherland came on my podcast, Dr. M, and I asked him which of the 5 values is the one that you focus on the most. And he surprised me. He said that commitment. All of them. Well, he said that
all of them.
Yes, but in particular, Jeff said the commitment is where magic happens.
True. Yep.
And so those 5 values, if you're on a team today and you're watching this vodcast with Dr. M and myself, and you see something lacking here, these are the keys to creating a high-performing team.
Yes.
So if something is lacking, like focus, I would recommend make the work more visual so that people can see where are we going towards. And then you'll start to get other areas. And if you're on a team where respect is really low, that's the first area to improve. And you will be using courage to try something different, as well as being open to trying new things as well. So yeah, the values are interconnected, and you will become a high-performing individual as well. And I get you onto the framework. So there's the framework again with a big blue heart, because I just love it. I haven't talked about the review.
I think I've also fallen in love, so you can make it bluer still.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we can actually.
You know what, Felipe? This is the first time that I have just glanced over Scrum, but this makes a lot of sense to me. I'll tell you why. And I like what I've gone through is because I come from an aviation industry. I know the amount of component parts, the sub-assembly parts, etc., that goes into an aircraft. So I understand that point of view, and I also understand the development point of view. This is amazing.
It's amazing. And, so far we've covered a lot of that stuff. Dr. M, I told you when we chatted earlier this week that this entire framework, as you see here depicted in my little hand sketch, it's built on top of the PDSA framework, Plan, Do, Study, Act, or as we say more commonly today in the United States, Plan, Do, Check, Act, or Adjust, or Adopt, or Abandoned. That's the A has multiple words. So all the planning side happens before we get into the team, where the team starts to do the work in the center. We're doing planning. We're planning here. We've got a backlog. We're planning, what are we going to do in this interval of work, which we call the sprint time box or the sprint. The sprint is just an envelope that allows us to say, like, inside of this time, could be through Monday through Friday. It could be the first of the month to the end of the month. It could be a 30-day cycle, a 25-day cycle, whatever your cycle is. That's we call the sprint. Now we're planning, and then we're deconstructing that plan with the sprint backlog and sprint planning, or the to-do list. We pull that in to this sprint time box. Like you saw, this team is pulling in.
Yep.
And here they were pulling in the workflow through here was about a 30-day cycle, where something would start until the time it was issued in an ASI is roughly 30 days. And again, watch this live stream for more details there. And then we're doing. That's when we're creating the value, baby. It's time to do. The development team is in the do, and they're making that value. Every day, we haven't talked about the daily scrum yet, but we will. Yep. At the end of that cycle, we have something that we check, we study what actually got done. Or as we go back to the questions here, let me go back to my other picture where we have actual product increment or service value increment, an increment of value here at the end. Now we can study, and as a team, we finally get into the retrospective, or we review how did the team work. The retrospective is selfishly for the team to improve how the team works, or as we say in Japanese, it's the time for the Kaizen, baby. Continuous improvement for the good, or self-improvement, right? For the team, for the benefit of the team, working through the flow, which is facilitated by the Scrum Master to help the team not only look at what were the positive things that happened, but what are some of the deltas, what things can be improved upon so that the team can work easier, better, and faster, Dr. M, so that their costs go down, their happiness goes up.
Yep.
Drop the confetti. You're in the Scrum framework, baby.
Excellent. And that's what they call the hensai, where you sit and discuss what went well, what could be improved, and the introspect. And that's what even Toyota had put up, that even if they do well, they find out where are the scope for improvement.
Exactly. Exactly. They call it doing the hansei.
Yep.
I even talked to a Japanese American a few years ago, and she said that where she grew up, when she spent time in Japan as a child, that anytime that she was doing something she shouldn't be doing, her parents would simply tell her to go do the hansei, where she would have to go into self-reflection and evaluate if she was doing things, if she was causing more suffering for herself than was necessary or not, and what could she do to reduce the suffering and get into a state of ease and flow. Because flow is where you want to be. That's right. When we're in an ease of flow. That's when the sound effect comes out, Dr. M, when we're in a flow state. Let's go back into now look at a construction.
Don't you think I'm a good student?
You are an amazing student. I've got
thanks a lot. Now we go
sound effects for you. So
let's move forward. Right.
Let's start with the picture this time.
Felipe, somewhere I read that the development team cannot exceed 7 people. Is that right? And if that is right.
That is not going to get you a sound effect, Dr. M. It's a rule of thumb where the development team 7 plus or minus 2 is a recommendation. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to remind you all that if you want to learn more about becoming a Scrum Master, I talk about team size in my book, Construction Scrum, as well. And you can read that book for free, by the way. And you click on the felipe.bio.link or you hit this QR code, Dr. M. You can go to resources here on the Construction Scrum Book website. We'll talk about those types of things, team sizes, as well as other case studies.
I just came into my mind that somewhere there were certain figures that were shown. So I just wanted to put it on board that.
And I've got a team here of 7. I'm going to show you some case study examples here from a team of 7 as well. But before we do that, Dr. M, let's look at, this is a real picture that I just took from LinkedIn this week. So this week, this is from a project team in Canada. And you can see if I zoom in here, they're using a Scrum board. They're in sprint planning. They've got to do, doing, and done. And they've also got behind them a last planner system board, which is another tool, a lean tool, lean construction. That's another planning system. So they got 2 different things going on here. And they've decided to use Scrum based on the little bit that I read from my friend. Shout out to Rita that shared this on LinkedIn. They're using this to manage constraints and variation from their plan. So they're using the Scrum framework to resolve and capitalize on variation. That's just a picture, real construction people. But here's a case study, and you can read more about this at the ebfcshow.com. There is a team that before using Scrum in pre-construction, Dr. M, was able to work on 1 to 2 construction projects a year. So an estimating team they basically figure out the cost of the work, cost and what is the total time. And so for a series of years from 2016 to 2018, they were working on 1 to 2 projects a year, not perfectly. So that's an average of about 2. And then when they adopted Scrum in 2018, they started using, someone said, let's be a Scrum team. And then they stopped working weekends because they used to work overtime, nights, and weekends. When they adopted the Scrum framework, in less than 4 months, they tripled their throughput and were able to increase the number of projects sustainably to 3. That's 1 additional project. And while
because you are building up capacity. You are building up capacity.
Man, what a good student you are, Dr. M. You're building up your capacity, your ability to deliver value.
You're building up capacity without additional resources.
Oh, even better, without any extra money or people or equipment. Yeah, there was no change in the equipment. It was just a process change in how they work together. They started using a term called velocity
I heard that.
in Scrum, which I'm not going to talk about in this episode. But when they adopted that, within 30 days, they doubled their output. They went to 7 to 8 projects, and then they continued using PDSA, as Dr. M says.
No, it's not me who said, it's Schuhart who said, and Deming said, yes, that is PDSA.
That's right. Good. Schuhart from the, was it Bell Labs? Was he working at Bell Labs? Or
he was a mentor to Deming.
One of the early predecessor to the AT&T, as we know it here in the United States, telephone company, is where Walter Schuhart worked. He was Deming's mentor.
That's right.
And so then this team got all the way to 8 to 9 projects a year in less than 2 years. You can see here from 2016 to 18, 2 years they were static, no change. Once they adopted the Scrum framework, Dr. M, they sustained improvement themselves. And they increased their throughput to 9 projects. It's incredible. That's got to get some sound effects. One of my favorite teams of all time, and there's a video of them talking about this in their own words. at the EBFC show website on construction Scrum case studies. Check that out, people. And so teams use this in designing construction. We talked about Scrum having just the 3-5-3, 3 roles, which we've already talked about.
Yep.
5 meetings. Now, Doctor, we haven't talked about these meetings. How do we sustain this? Once the team decides, yes, we want to use this framework at the team level, they've got to have 5 meetings. So I've got the 5 meetings on the board here. They've got, we talked about sprint planning, and everything happens inside of the sprint. So let me zoom in here. The sprint, you can see, spans across this 5-day cycle. I've just chosen 5 days. People, you can use a 30-day cycle if you want.
Fair enough.
But I've chosen 5 days just for today's purposes. It's the most common sprint cycle. And so there's the definition. It's just, it holds all the other meetings inside of it. We've got the sprint planning that happens in this particular team. They're going to do it on a Monday. So they'll plan for at least an hour. Every day, they're going to do the daily scrum or the daily stand-up meeting. I think I heard you, Doctor. I'm talking about daily huddles and daily stand-up meetings in another one of your episodes.
That's fair.
Yeah, so you know what this is. I was getting all excited. I was giving you points when I was watching the other your other guests talking about daily meetings, and I was like, yes, daily meetings are powerful. And so you're going to use that daily meeting just to do a quick check. Are we on target? Are we not?
Let me send a reminder to all my people who this daily meeting is not to say what went wrong and blame people.
That is correct. Yeah, we do not, there is no value in the 2 W's. A lot of people confuse the 5 Y's and they let it just decompose into the 2 W's of who messed up and where we messed up.
That's right.
And that is not root cause analysis, people.
I like that.
You be hard on the process, be easy on the people. True. As Deming said, and I know Dr. and we both love Deming.
Yep.
Deming said that a bad system will beat good people every single time.
That's why you use the word willing workers.
Right. Willing workers. A willing worker. He used to say it. I could hear his voice on his videos where he talks about a willing worker.
Yeah.
On a channel my inner Dr. Deming. He's such a deep voice too.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got the daily check-in, so the team can help each other and reprioritize inside of the sprint backlog, which is their to-do list, where they have full control. The team is self-organized, as we talked about. Now, there's a optional meeting called backlog refinement that we're not going to talk about here. That's optional.
That's
fair enough. And then the review at the end, like I said, at the end of the sprint, when we get to the end where we have the product or the increment of value, we look at with the stakeholders, the customers, the users, et cetera. We want feedback. We've got to close the loop on our system, Dr. M, and we got to get that priceless feedback so we can see, are we delivering value to the right amount, just in time, the way the customer wants? And the faster and more often we can get feedback, the better we can adapt to deliver easier. Right? That's the name of the game. The retro, we talked about that retrospective. Like Dr. M said, it's the Hansei. In Japanese, it's exactly the same concept, but in Scrum, we'll also look at how fast are we going. And so in this construction Scrum example, we still have the developers. Dr. M is still on the team. Felipe is going to play the role of Scrum Master. Dr. M is being such a good student, we're going to award him the role of product owner. So he'll be the product owner in our team here. See that, Dr. M?
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah,
I'll put you right there. So you'll be that person, and I'll be over here. I'll be the team captain. Oh, we stay here and be the captain. And then Kiera, Anaya, and Jeff will be, and we'll just change this to, what's another good name we should use on here? Danny? We'll get a Danny on our team. They will all be part of the team. And it should be noted too, ladies and gentlemen, the Scrum Master and the product owner are also developers. On 99.9% of all Scrum teams, the Scrum Master and the product owner also do the work. They do work and they pull backlog items and they create value. So they are inside of this development team. Now they have, as the Scrum Master or the team captain and the product owner, they have additional responsibilities, but they are also able to pull value and work through the system. So again, this construction example, the team said, this is the project goal, Dr. M. They got the project goal which is transforming patient experience to a human experience in a state-of-art facility that promotes well-being guided by empathy. The team said, we like the project goal, but we're going to further refine this. We want to build a healthy place in our world. So everything that hits their board, that comes onto their Scrum board, has to pass that filter. If it doesn't help them in building a healthy place, it doesn't go on the Scrum board. This goal is a great mechanism, and this team decided
that is something which I understand is absolutely non-negotiable, right?
Non-negotiable. That is absolutely correct, Dr. M.
Okay.
And then this team has named themselves One Piece Flow.
Okay.
What a creative.
I have one query, just one query before we are ending up the story. One query is, if the product owner, the Scrum Master, the teams are there, you have got two people over there, the Scrum Master and the product owner. If there is an issue, who takes the call on that? The product owner or the Scrum Master?
Okay, so it depends on the issue, Dr. M. If the issue has to do with how the team is working, the Scrum Master is completely responsible for two things: the speed at which the team works, and as well as the well-being of the team, or we say it's just team happiness. The product owner is responsible for getting the feedback and what the team delivers. So if requirements change, or if there's going to be a change in what they're going to deliver at the end, or how they're maybe there's a big Kaizen event and they change processes, the product owner is responsible for going back through the backlog and then coordinating with the team, bringing the feedback back to the team so they can make the change. But the Scrum Master is completely responsible for the process and how they're using the framework, the Scrum framework, which I'm showing you today.
Okay. Right. Paraphrasing again what you said, that the product owner has the responsibility and authenticity based on what is happening to change a process and put in a new process. Having put in a new process, it is a responsibility of the Scrum Master to see that moves smoothly, effectively. Am I right, sir?
That is correct. The sound of that bell, Doctor, means you are, again, a good student. No, you're a great student. That is awesome.
Come on. Jim Collins will go for a toss from good to great.
Yeah, he's definitely great. So Dr. M is amazing. So here's an example on the Scrum board. I'll put it on the screen so people can see. These are actual construction tasks. These are kind of wordy. This team is just getting started. In this example, when you're first starting, sometimes these things will be kind of on the big side. So here's one example of what they have been doing right now. At this particular phase, this team is managing is the main thing here. And they've described that managing tasks is hands-on project management teams in the field on this project to identify issues, provide solutions, delegate, maintain safety, monitor progress, mitigate any schedule budget changes for mutual project success. Now, a Scrum Master, Dr. M, will see this gigantic task and say, can all of this happen in a single cycle? He'll ask the team, he'll challenge the team, and the team will then decompose this task. Maybe this managing task at this particular phase will be focused on, maybe right now, maintaining safety and monitor. And so they'll just decompose the task as I'm showing you here. And it might be more specific to maintain safety in excavation, which is just a particular phase of where they are. So they'll take this task and they'll decompose it into smaller tasks during sprint planning. And they might decide that this will pull back to here. This is what we're going to do first. And they might further decompose this card. And eventually anything that comes out of this card, they might visually show it as purple to show that it decomposed from this card as it's being worked on. That's just one example. So I'll give everybody here some Scrum bonus love right here. When you are creating your Scrum, there is a tendency to, as a human being, Dr. M, overcomplicate the mess out of things. Yeah. People, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Your tasks, if you're going to use it at the tasking level, you want to keep it action-oriented, verb, noun, phrases. The verb here is maintain. The nouns are, what are we maintaining? We're maintaining safety. Where are we doing it? In excavation. We're digging a hole, right? So we want to make it simple. We want to make it action oriented. Also, another bonus nugget, make the tasks small enough that they can be accomplished in a single workday. That way we can see progress. If I see this maintaining safety on here for weeks at a time, as a Scrum Master, something's wrong. And I'm going to come to you, Dr. M, be like, Dr. M, we're hyper focused on maintaining safety, but is that all we're going to do right now? And you're going to say, no, we're also responsible for building a healthy place. And what are we building? In this particular example from the project, Dr. M, as the product owner, is responsible for creating this human experience, this patient experience in a state-of-the-art facility. So we've got to actually build something. Maintaining the safety is just a part of it. And so Dr. M might say that, well, we've got this designing this safe place to improve patient outcomes is important. And we'll create some impetus for the team to prioritize this and to get this moving, right? Because that might be more important to start than the safety. Because if we don't have even a site yet, if there's not even a hole yet, and we're still in design, we've got to get the design complete. So Dr. M is going to talk to the team, communicate to the team, show the importance, and help the team prioritize to what is the most important thing we should do first. And that is dynamic. Yep. That is dynamic. All right. So, and there's more. I mean, I cover all this in my Scrum Master training course, Dr. M, designed for construction professionals. And we've had other people in support as well. So, but we use that goal to make sure that as Dr. M had already noticed, it is non-negotiable. It's got to meet this goal to work through the framework, or it's not Scrum. And we're not doing it. We're not using it. So everything we do has got to meet the goal so that we can deliver that valuable product at the end. And I just want to remind everybody that I know we've covered a lot of things here. Connect with me if you have more questions on things that I've said. You can get me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can even buy me a coffee, TikTok, LinkedIn, my favorite place where Dr. M and I first met, Clubhouse, where you can talk to me live with all my beautiful sounds. And we're on Apple Podcast. You can email me. We live stream on Twitch at least once a month. And I'm also on Facebook, Dr. M. And all of these links will take you to this site where you can see my show. You can watch a video clip from the EBFC show podcast, Dr. M. And again, you can also get fast access to the Construction Scrum Guide, narrated by yours truly, myself, and take that free course that Dr. M said he's going to sign up for at the Scrum training course. You can take this mini mural course so you can learn how to drop the confetti in mural like I do. Start your free course right now. Or you can spend 3 minutes reading about how to implement Scrum in 5 steps as featured on Yahoo Finance, Dr. M, right here. So check all that out. That's all available to all your listeners. Let's drop the confetti. Dr. M, do you have any questions for me?
Where were you all this time?
Where have I been all your life? I know. It's like I fell out of the beginning of this where I was telling Dr. M, like, this is just going to be pure heaven for me. We get to share and show and tell and experience flow, one piece flow together, and to get into a flow state. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. M needs to hear your feedback and comments. So if you're watching this on his YouTube channel, leave a comment for him to get active with you on and engage, and give it a thumbs up if you like this episode or any of his other episodes. I myself have subscribed to his channel, and I recommend you subscribe as well so that you don't miss any beautiful continuous improvement insights from his guests and himself. He is a master of continuous improvement, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I'm a student, a seeker who loves. Now let's see a face. Come on, it's time for a bugle or something like that. Come on.
Yes, or some more harp music. So that's
And you were on which show? Come on, before I stop recording.
I'm on the EBFC show, the easier, better, faster, cheaper show, where I bring in guests from around the world, sharing how to make project delivery easier, better, faster, more sustainable, happier people worldwide, Dr. M, worldwide.
And today you are on Dr. M's vodcast. And thank you for being here with me. Take care. Love you a lot. And thanks for keeping me. Take care.